Good morning, and welcome to Monday Morning Business Foreplay. Our guest today is Dr. Tom Rohrer. He is a mental performance specialist, a psychotherapist, and an expert in helping people perform at their best when the pressure is on. For years, Tom's worked with athletes, public performers, and high achievers to overcome the emotional and mental barriers that interfere with performance. Whether it's confidence, focus, courage, resilience, or the ability to perform in the zone, Tom helps people access the mental resources they need when it matters most. While his work often takes place in athletics and performance settings, the lessons are just as relevant for entrepreneurs. Every day, business owners are required to perform. They perform on sales calls, stages, in networking meetings, on podcasts, in leadership roles, and during difficult business decisions. In today's conversation, we are talking about why winning starts in your head, how limiting beliefs and emotional patterns affect business performance, and the practical strategies entrepreneurs can use to build confidence, improve focus, and consistently perform at their best. Make sure you stick around for the end of the game because Tom will share a special gift with our audience to help them better understand and improve their own performance. Tom, welcome. Thank you for joining me for Monday Morning Business Foreplay inside Potapalooza.
Thank you for having me, Coleen.
I'm so excited to have you. So, Tom, this is going to be the easiest question of the day. For people who haven't met you yet, who are just now meeting you, hearing about you for the very first time, will you please share who you are and what brought you to the work that you do today?
Thank you. So I'm going to start with asking a question, and that is, have you ever noticed or witnessed a talented performer who is struggling to deliver their best expected performance? Well, most of us have. There's lots of reasons for that, and that's the kind of client I work with. And I go through, three phases in general. One is looking at identifying and resolving the underlying emotional issue, sometimes called trauma, in the extreme called post-traumatic stress disorder. But most of us have traumas or unresolved issues from some experience that cause us to be blocked in some way. It's so common that it's just part of being human.
And did you experience that? Is that what brought you into this area of work?
I did. There was a big gap between when this happened. When I was in Richmond High School, I was on the junior varsity basketball team. And when I got into the game, I started double dribbling. I knew how to dribble. That was not, I've done it thousands of times. And yet, about every other time I had the ball in my hands, I would double dribble. And it didn't take long before the coach would take me out. And then after a few times of that, I just didn't get back in the game again. And so my basketball career, which was my favorite sport at the time, was done. I didn't know what was going on. I also didn't have a clue how to deal with it. Neither did anybody else, as far as I know. I'm not a young person. And so over the years, we've gotten to understand that. And one of the pieces that's more and more understood by those who really deal with those kind of issues is there's almost always some unresolved issue. In years since, especially as I started using the tool called brain spotting, I've identified what that was and have been able to resolve that. And I no longer play basketball competitively, but those things in our brain get linked. And so we have all kinds of things that trigger us and cause us to, for a future time might be suddenly getting panicky. I know for me, it's meeting somebody who's famous and I have respect for, right? I mean, suddenly I can gotten a lot better at it. But it's that, and you don't know what to say because you get, quote, tongue-tied. And often it comes from something that's unresolved unconsciously.
I love that. And I can totally relate to that. I too played basketball. I wanted to be Spud Webb, but wrong color, wrong gender, well, I was the right height. That's about all I had going at the time. I remember leaving I didn't get into college ball, but I left for college thinking, if I could just grow an inch or two, it would make big difference. But that didn't happen for me. So much of your work has been with athletes and public performers. I want to know, Tom, from you, what similarities do you see between elite performers and entrepreneurs when it comes to handling pressure and achieving results? So let's compare the athletes and the entrepreneurs.
Certainly. The parallel is all but identical. What I've already shared could easily be transferred into an entrepreneur. One of the things that I know as an entrepreneur is you need to go into some kind of situation often and make a presentation, right? And that can be very anxiety provoking, especially if the background is you need the work or this is a big jump up from past and you're now suddenly at you're presenting to a Fortune 50 company or such. So the same thing is true. If that doesn't go smoothly, there's probably some reason for it. Now, often people come in to see me start with what I refer to as I've already talked about phase one. Phase two is they come in and they want to get better. They are unaware, and maybe they don't have, occasionally that's true. They don't have any unresolved issue, excuse me, and they just want to get better. They want to be really sharp. And so we use things like brain spotting and polyvagal theory to connect with what are the mentally emotional resource states that they know will really help them. Assertiveness, right? Courage, relaxation, calmness. And they find how to connect to that. I'm going to more in a minute how I do that, but they're going to connect to that and get really good at connecting to that. So as they're sitting there waiting to go into the room to present, they find that very calm space. And they're both in terms of where they look visually and where they feel the body sensations. And they can walk in there and it can just take as little as just glancing over to wherever they're what's called the brain spot. It's the point in your visual field where when you look there, you connect to whatever it is that you wanted to connect to. In this case, let's say calmness. Look there and you can kind of go connect calmness. And you can do that as you're, looking over even in the middle of a presentation. Um, and so they have the same three pieces. They probably have unresolved issues, which often come up as they're presenting, right? Maybe it's just in my office and they're visualizing and they're anticipating going to this presentation and they're doing well. And what's just coming up is something that they can't connect with. I worked with a client some years ago and she couldn't visualize herself in the situation that she claimed she wanted to be in. Well, we found out later that I won't go into details because it's not important, but that issue was an issue she unconsciously was struggling with, right? So at that point, we can go into, well, let's resolve that issue. Let's find it, resolve it, and then that won't be there. That won't be in the way. Now, I say occasionally people don't have any issue and they connect with whatever resources will really help them. And then what's called expansion, they literally go into how to connect with those mental resources. In general, psychology, performance area, we typically call that a flow. In sports, they often call that being in the zone, in that flow state, and be able to go there and be able to experience themselves, walking into the presentation. They look around, they see, maybe they know some of the faces are going to be, maybe they don't. They see them, they stay calm, they make the presentations. They're great, right?
Yeah.
Most people find underlying issues, maybe very small ones. For those who don't, that's what I call phase two and three,
Right.
the work I do with people.
Right. So I want to know if you could tell me let's do three, the most common mental barriers that prevent entrepreneurs from performing at their highest level. We've acknowledged that there is a barrier. And I think I'm not going to say that this is the biggest part of it, but I will say that understanding and accepting that there is the barrier, that there is trauma, something that's happened, is huge. And then also acknowledging it. And then it's like you have to still embrace the fact that you have to make a change. But in that process, they're acknowledging that there is a mental barrier that's preventing them from reaching their goal, whatever that might be. What would you say are the top three mental barriers that entrepreneurs specifically see?
Well, I would say number one for practically all human beings is some version or another of defensiveness. Nobody, almost nobody wants to even admit they have any kind of an issue at all. It's human nature. And then they want to resist it and they want to say, well, it's just this, it's just that. If one looks directly at the issue, add a little in some slow, deep breathing, acceptance, no one, there isn't any such thing as a human being who is perfect, who knows how to do everything, the first time, et cetera, et cetera. That's the number one, is being able to go, okay, so there's some issue here, and it may not, I can't control what the other person's doing, or the environment or the weather, such. I can control my response to it. So being able to accept, look at it directly, accept that if I go into allowing or noticing and then identifying what it is and then doing what it takes to make that shift. It could be something for myself. I know that it's often as simple as slowing down, right?
Yeah.
Having had pneumonia when I was about 14 months old and having speech issues, I know that 80% of the problems I have when I'm presenting or public speaking is just slowing down, right?
Yes. Yes.
Connecting with myself, and not to be too much to go into detail what that means for me, but going inside and connecting with myself, my knowledge, etc., is that it tends to go quite well. If I get up in my head and start thinking, and it's like entrepreneur also, but
Right.
what pops in my head is the basketball player who's starting to dribble and he goes, or she goes, now if I just hold the ball like this and just move it up here, no, you just do it, right? You just do it. You trust your training.
Right.
And for the entrepreneur, the same way. You have to go into that flow state and just trust you know what you're talking about. And what's the worst thing that could happen? It
Right.
didn't go well. You're not going to die. It's not going to last forever. It's not going to ruin your total life.
Right. And there
Because
are
it's,
billions of people in the world. You can try again, right? So
yep.
that's a big part of it. But I think there's a lot of work that went in that. So that would be the first common mental barrier. What are two more? I've always wondered if people are afraid to actually succeed.
Well, that's another one. Yeah. Well, if you succeed, you have to keep performing.
Oh, that's true. I
If
didn't
you
think of that. I
fail,
was thinking that
just like
there,
me,
there are expectations that come when you succeed, right? Like
yeah,
there are people that expect things from you
yeah.
outside of your own expectations. I guess you're saying your own expectation is that you have to continue to succeed, but other
Oh,
people then come on
both.
board and have expectations of you.
Yes, both are true. They're going to expect me to get an A in the next test. I'm not, that's not like me. I can't do that, right? There are three pieces of which I know it more from being whether somebody's an optimist or a pessimist, which is really a huge piece of reality. It's how much of what happened, positively or negatively, was personal. Did I screw up or did they make a mistake? My boss who fired me, is he a stupid person? He doesn't even know what he's doing. He doesn't understand how great I am. That's what an optimist would say. How long it will last and how many aspects of your life it will affect. So an optimist, there's a great story about Matt Biondi, a great swimmer in the 90s. And he's at the Olympics and he doesn't stretch enough and he misses the gold medal by what he described as the thickness of your fingernail. It was like 3/100ths of a 3/1000ths of a second. You can't even measure the amount of time we're talking. So the question was, what will we do with the next race? Well, people knew he was an optimist. So people were saying things like, you watch what he'll do in the next race. Wasn't his best event. He was scheduled to win like 8 medals. It wasn't one of his best events. Not only did he win the gold medal, but he set a world's record. That's what an optimist will do, right? A pessimist will say, my God, how can I do well in the next race? I didn't even win the gold medal in my best race. All a matter of the way you look at things.
Yes, this
That's
is so
been,
true. So very true.
and by
Okay.
the way, For
Yes.
those who are interested, it's a wonderful free website called, um, the phone is longer, but you can find it by authentichappiness.org. It's backed by the University of Pennsylvania, a guy by the name of Martin Seligman. And you can take tests on optimism. There's one called for kids, one for adults called the VIA, Values in Action, tells you your top strengths. In other words, what's right with you. I think what psychology tends to focus on what's wrong with you,
Yes.
and a bunch of other assessments, all free.
Okay.
Authentichappiness.org. It's a wonderful website.
Thank you for that. So let
Sure.
me ask you this. I like to leave my listeners with something that they can really, I want to say tangible, but not tangible, right? Something that they can actually do. So tell me this, what is one practical technique for our listeners that they can use this week to improve their confidence, their focus, or their performance when facing a challenging business situation?
It's going to depend to some degree on what the challenge is, but in general, if they can figure out, usually it's not too difficult, what mental emotional resource state would be helpful to them. If they had more courage, if they could connect to their resourcefulness, their knowledge, their all their past experience where they've been effective, and connect with that emotionally. I would not think, oh yeah, I remember when I was effective. No, go into that experience where you were effective, you were maybe challenged, and you came up with the answer and you succeeded, and find the point in your visual field where you connect to that. It usually isn't too hard. If you go into that state and then just kind of go, where am I looking? If not, just be in that experience and then take that into the situation. Body sensations, knowing what the body sensations feel like too, also. Visualization, you can bring that into, right? So you walk in with that in that mentally emotional state, resource state, in a very different mood. If what comes in is, I've been told these people are really tough to deal with, just move it out of the way. Is that helpful? No. And two, you don't know that for a fact. Maybe the people that told you that were people that weren't very good at what they did and they made some stupid statement and may upset, who knows? All you know is what you can control, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. So, Tom, do you have a gift for our audience? Do you have a some way that they can, a gift or something they can use to get in contact with you?
Yes, and I will send you the information on a list I've made of mental emotional resource states. I also have, it's on my website also, but I'll send that to you in email. The assessments I have, this is more for athletes, but they can be totally appropriate for anybody, for student athletes, parents of athletes, adult athletes. But an adult athlete, a person who's an entrepreneur could plug into that and just reword it for them, right? And those are available. And when it comes out of that is, depends on particular person, but I typically about a 10 to 20 page handout, which will help people explore those very performance issues.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Thank you so much. So,
Sure.
thank you, Tom, for joining us today. As entrepreneurs, we are constantly asked to perform, whether that's in sales conversations, a leadership role, a networking event, or even just making difficult decisions. And the ability to manage our mindset may be one of the most valuable business skills that we can develop. If today's conversation has resonated with you, make sure that you contact Tom, continue the conversation, and then grab his free gift. I'm going to make sure that that gift is available with today's episode in the description or in the comments. Tom, thank you so much for joining us for Monday Morning Business Foreplay inside Potapalooza. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Colleen.